What's up, y'all? Sparta here. So for this video, I want to talk Note 10. Now, this is like a day or two before I get my S21 Ultra, and I gave my S20 FE to my mom. And this phone is something that's very interesting. When I got my V60 around that same time, this phone decided it wanted to mess up with charging, and it was weird. But for whatever reason, now around the same time, a year later, and me getting the S21 Ultra, now it's deciding, oh, I want to charge now properly. And what I'll get into with this, there are reasons why that happens when it comes to this phone in particular, which is the first phone I've ever had that sort of issue with. And it's a more of a Samsung specific issue where the wireless charging pad acts like the temperature monitor for the battery. So when the wireless charging pad is not screwed in properly, or if it's just a software thing, then the phone decides to not charge because it can't detect the temperature of the phone. Now, for whatever reason, it's totally fine. What I'll do is I'll plug this into here, and as you guys can see, it's totally fine. I unplug it. Again, it's totally fine. Nothing is really different in terms of operation or anything like that. It hasn't. There's been like one time where it disconnected for maybe like 5 seconds, but then went back to charging. But other than that, it's been the same. So other than that, this is a look back video. I'll talk about the stuff that I feel that this phone really does well still. The stuff that it's not going to be amazing at, and just go from there. So in this kind of look back series that I'm doing a year later almost 2 years later with this phone, I do really like it. I do feel like the phone took on some Sony Xperia design language. I've always felt that about this phone, with the flat top and bottom and the rounded edges. It just feels very Xperia-like. That's not a bad thing. It's just what I feel. Have always felt when I had this phone in my hand. Glass on glass sandwich, triple cameras, single LED flash. You don't have the Z camera that the Note 10 Plus had back then, which only really gave you like AR sticker capability, AR camera capabilities, and better portrait mode stuff. But I don't care about that, so that's fine. Sorry. You do have a 1080p OLED, which is a very nice and quality display. I have no sort of issues with this display at all. It is nice and crisp. It is on par with the S20 FE's 1080p display. It's just not 120 hertz, which is really the only difference. And it's just quality. The fingerprint sensor in this phone is still really fast. It's just more the placement that gets me a lot of the time, and that's pretty much it. This is on Android 11 now, and I will say that this phone definitely feels smoother and felt like it had a overall better update than when the S20 FE had when I initially got it. I just had a few problems with the S20 FE when I first got it. And I haven't really ran into those same issues here, so that's very nice, even though I did restore from an S20 FE backup. That's why I pretty much have the same wallpaper and same setup that's on this phone. In terms of performance, Snapdragon 855, you're not going to really have any sort of issues with that these days. It's going to be really hard to slow this phone down, even with modern games. It was playing those games just fine when it came out. It'll play those games just fine now. 8 gigabytes of RAM, again, is going to be really good. 256 gigs of internal storage. It's going to be hard to fill that up. No SD card. That was something that I initially just did not like. I still don't like it. I would still like the option to have an SD card expansion in a phone that was $950 at the time. But since I did get it for free, I just traded my iPhone XS for somebody's Note 10. It's not really that big of a deal. Like it really isn't. It's still ample storage. Restoring from a backup where I had a whole bunch, where I had like 55 gigs worth of stuff on my 128 gigabyte S20 FE. It hasn't been filled up. So that's really nice. The cameras are something that I really did feel were kind of okay. Like, a lot of people do like Samsung's colors and they like how they handle stuff. I don't. I tend to prefer to shoot in manual mode when it comes to Samsung phones. I feel LG in particular has done a way better job at getting their color science right, getting how they process photos a little bit better over the years. Sure, you don't get the super juicy HDR processing, but for me personally, I feel Samsung is a bit overhanded with that. That was the case with this. And from what I've been seeing with S21 Ultra camera samples and stuff like that, it's pretty much the same on the S21 Ultra. And they really haven't changed that. It's more consumer friendly, eye-popping stuff, and that's just not what I am. This phone for video recording is really good. The stabilization for the 4K is nowhere near like an LG V60 or for its time a V50, V40. So that's just something to keep in mind. It's just not going to reach that. It's good, but it's like maybe better than the iPhones, but it's not reached. For me, from my personal testing, from what I've seen, iPhones are kind of lower pack in terms of the three that I've tested between the Samsung phones, between Samsung, iPhone, and LG. LG just tends to feel stable, and it looks like you're on a tripod, whereas or a gimbal, whereas on like an iPhone or a Samsung phone, you will have that, but you'll just have those little twitchy moments. Whereas I don't have that on my V60 at all. Even after the Android 11 update, it seems like the stabilization got better. Like it feels even more floaty. And I don't even try to super steadily hold it or anything like that. I just hold it basic regularly, and it is just very smooth and floaty. I think this is a 12 camera setup on the back, ultra wide, regular, and telephoto, 10x zoom. I think it's 2x optical zoom. I don't remember. From what I remember in terms of using this phone for those things, it did a really good job with a lot of things. Like, when you go into the manual mode, I don't like Samsung's what they call pro mode, mainly because a lot of things feel a little bit twitchy. People comment a lot of the times on that when it comes to OnePlus phones. While those are indeed worse compared to a Samsung phone, there's certain things like when you have focus peaking on and you're trying to manually focus and you let go, focus peaking is no longer on after you let go of the focus meter. Things like that, I feel like phones like the V10 had that from the beginning. I don't understand why this phone can't have it too, but that's not Again, that's not huge. It's just something that I want to point out. In terms of battery life, it's pretty much the same since I haven't used it since the battery was acting up. Since I've had my issues, I haven't used it nearly as much, but overall, it feels pretty much the same. Like I haven't had any like drastic battery degradation issues, mainly because I haven't used this phone for the past year. So this is pretty much a year old phone. And as you guys can see, the phone is pretty much clean. I tapped to focus, so now I gotta sit here. The phone overall is still very clean. There's nothing really wrong with like the cosmetically with this phone because I just haven't used it. So there's really nothing in terms of that. Obviously, glass is going to be bad for things like long-term durability. You're going to have a case. And the Tough Armor case from Spigen is the one that I use and the one that I have used. This is the only case I've had for this phone, and it's done well. For $20 or however much this was, this is a very good case, and it is just nice. I do still feel this is a better value than, say, a Note 20, a base Note 20, because you get twice as much storage. The Snapdragon 865 to 55 is not going to be that big of a difference if you don't do super heavy tasks. But for gaming, like I said, and stuff like that, it's just as good. You still get the same base 25 watt supercharging, so super fast charging. So you're not going to have to worry about 45 watt fast charging at all. Neither of them can do it. The only thing is if you want that 30x zoom. Apologies, I must have hit the stop button by mistake. But yeah, for heavy tasks, you're not really gonna have to worry about anything. This phone can still handle a whole bunch. It can still record 4K video. It just can't do it unlimited, like on phones with a Snapdragon 850. Well, unlimited, not really. Up to how much storage you have, but you can't do HDR10 plus on here, which you'd be able to do on the which you definitely be able to do on the Note 20, the base Note 20, because of the larger sensor. 12 megapixel sensors just can't do HDR10 plus 4K footage. It just can't do it. That's a sensor limitation, obviously. 30x zoom is something that you'll definitely get on the Note 20. If you care about that, you don't get that here, mainly because that was a S20 feature kind of thing. So that's something that you'll get on there with their I forget what they call it. Their super sampling stuff that makes pictures look overall smoother, better. Better. That's something that the S20 FE did really good at, and what the Note 20 I'd assume would also be good at. You're not really going to miss anything in terms of display, other than the fact that the camera cutout is not going to be as like. This has like a black circle around the front-facing camera, which is something you definitely can see if you have a. I guess I'll just go to like the Google Play Store or something, just so I can show you guys what I mean. As you guys can see right here, there's the camera, and it has a black ring around it. So that's something you just don't have on the S20 FE, or what I would assume the Note 20. So that's just something that I feel is just an overall better deal. I also don't think you get an SD card slot on the base Note 20. I don't remember. Samsung's site is weird. They don't tell you everything. So when I looked initially to see if I was actually being right about that phone not having it, I just couldn't tell. But I assume it doesn't have it, and that's just if it does have it, let me know in the comment section below. But I think it doesn't. The S20 FE, Another phone that you can consider over this is a really good phone. I had it for like 5 6 months, and yeah, I will say that there's a 128 or 256 gig version. 128 has 6 gigs of RAM. 256 is 8. Both have SD card support. Both have a 1080p display. Obviously, both run at 120 hertz. So if you want that, that's definitely going to be an upgrade. The only thing is that with the micro SD card, if you're trying to take if you take all your pictures in pro mode and take all your 4K videos of 4K 60, they don't save them directly to the SD card. So you're going to have to move them over after the fact. That's just something to keep in mind there. But nonetheless, you still have an SD card, whereas these new phones just don't have them. And this phone, the Notes of last year, as well as the S20 FE, all have mag stripe. So say if you are in the US and a lot of places haven't adopted NFC payments yet, that's still something that you will have on all of these phones. So that's really nice. Other than that, that's pretty much it. I do feel the Note 10 is still a good buy. If you don't care about expandable storage and you're totally fine with just 256 gigs of internal storage, this phone will do really good. It really will. Still a powerful phone, still ample, still can play games totally fine. Obviously, you won't get 120 hertz. That's not what the panel is. It's a 60 hertz panel. Still a beautiful OLED. Haven't really had any sort of issues with the screen, mainly because I haven't used it for a year, basically. But still, I haven't had any harrowing issues that you would typically get with an OLED. This is Sparta. Thank you guys for watching. Thanks for support. Hope you guys have a wonderful Wednesday, whatever time of day it is in the area. Like the video if you like it. Dislike it if you dislike it. Show people they're interested in the sort of content. Have a good one.